Hi everyone, Olivia Reiner here with Ryan Wood for Packers News following the Packers' loss on the road to the Chicago Bears.
Another road loss?
Another one?
No way. Where have we seen that before? Every other game this year.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So I think
I'm with you now.
Six of them, I think?
Yeah.
Six other ones?
Yeah. Seven.
This is the seventh, right?
This is the seventh, yeah. 6 others.
So,
they get one next week, but not this week.
Another crack at it next week to see if they can salvage one road win. However, at this point, it's useless. The Packers are officially eliminated from playoff contention. Ryan, I think a lot of us saw this coming. The Bears obviously have had a great season so far. The Packers have certainly gone downhill since that Week 1 performance against the Bears. What did you see tonight from the Packers?
More of the same. I mean, it did. It looked exactly like what we thought it would look like. I think I picked 20-13. It was 24-17. It was a touchdown game, low scoring. The Packers offense had no answer for this Bears defense. This Bears defense is darn good. I mean, it's going to be really interesting in the playoffs when they go to LA or to New Orleans to see what they can do on the road, and they don't have this cold weather, this windy, miserable place to play here in Soldier Field that is tailored to a defense. Clearly that was too much for the Packers today. But, I mean, I guess my big takeaway is this. This is a Khalil Mack division, and the Bears have a lot of reasons why they're NFC North champs for the first time since 2010. They have a lot of reasons today why they snapped the Packers' 8-game winning streak inside Soldier Field, one of them being that there were actually Bears fans in Soldier Field today, which hasn't happened in years with the Packers here. But the bottom line is this. It's a Khalil Mack division. For a long time, it was an Aaron Rodgers division. It's not an Aaron Rodgers division right now. It's a Khalil Mack division. That's great players swing the power of balance, and September 2nd this year when the Bears made that trade, that was the biggest win anyone has had in this entire division all year. That trade swung everything. 3.5 sacks in 2 games, a touchdown in the opener, 2.5 sacks today. It's Khalil Mack's division.
Hey everyone, to everyone saying hi, we say hello back to you. Chase, kind of along that same vein, wanted to ask you, and he used this word, tell me if you think it's strong. He wanted to know, does Aaron Rodgers suck? How do you feel about that word?
He wasn't good. Yeah, I mean, suck, I don't know. I wouldn't use that word, but he wasn't good. He was pretty bad today. He had a 69 passer rating. His first time in a complete game that he has had a passer rating under 70 since Week 4 of the 16 season. So it's been a while since he's played this bad. Now, here's the thing. Great defenses can make quarterbacks look bad, and this is a great Bears defense. So I don't think you can take away that. But the thing with me is, and it never stops being alarming, he just missed so many open receivers today. He missed Randall Cobb open twice. He missed Equinemius St. Brown open twice, one for a touchdown. He missed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. There's so many missed throws, but so many missed throws to open receivers that it's jarring because this is a quarter. You got to almost. I stand outside the locker room, repeated it to myself. This is a quarterback with historic accuracy that can't hit open receivers consistently. It's stunning. It really is.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers finished with 42 attempts and 25 completions.
Less than 60%. Yep.
Yes, math. Difficult sometimes. Devontae Adams finished. He now has 100 completions for the season.
Receptions, yeah.
Receptions. There is interesting disparity.
Good point.
The next person, the second most receptions on the team, 49, and that number belongs to Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham, yeah, that's the crazy thing. Devontae Adams still had over 100 yards today. Like, even still, I mean, he's had a heck of a season. The problem is that no one else has. And you know what else happened? Aaron Jones got 1 carry too many. It kind of validates the whole reason why the Packers have been very careful with his carries and touches this year, because he is, outside Devontae Adams, he is their other playmaker. And he, I talked with him in the locker room afterwards. He said it's a very similar injury to the MCL he had last year. I'd be surprised if we saw him again this season with 2 games left out of playoff contention. it validates that he's going to have to add some padding, some muscle in the lower half this offseason because he's a special type of talent. But you got to stay healthy. You got to be able to withstand the rigors of that position. And really, the running back position in the NFL boils down to this: can you take complete abuse for 4 months? I mean, that's what it is. And he got pretty close, but it was a tough injury to that.
So Jason, among with a lot of you guys, have been asking about Aaron Rodgers playing in the next 2 games. Will he play? Will Deshaun Kaiser step in? Aaron spoke in his post-game press conference saying that he intends to be the starter the next 2 games. What do you think about that?
I guess I'll believe him if he says that. I wasn't there. I didn't know that he said that. Surprising to me. I mean, I would think that at the very least you'd want to give him one game, get Deshaun Kaiser 1 game to see what you got there. You also don't want to get your Aaron Rodgers hurt. This is new territory for the Packers, but it is not new for a lot of teams, even with great quarterbacks. I mean, the New Orleans Saints had several years in which they didn't play meaningful football at the end of the year. Drew Brees started. I mean, this is kind of what happens. These guys do play. I would think that Deshaun Kaiser gets some playing time, though, in the next 2 weeks. I don't know how much, but you got to see what he's got.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of Jamal Williams? He had to step in, Aaron Jones being out for a good chunk of the game. He kind of stepped up in a bigger way than I think any of us would have anticipated ultimately.
It reminded me actually of a year ago when Aaron Jones had the MCL tear and Jamal Williams had a really good game. And, he's a more polished receiver at this point than Aaron Jones is. He's not as electric with the ball in his hands, but he's a more polished receiver. You saw that 3 catches, 40 yards, 95 yards overall. He had a good game. 55 yards on 12 carries. That's pretty good when Todd Gurley had 28 yards on 11 carries a week ago. So, they clearly missed something with Aaron Jones, but that depth that they have in the backfield, that they'll have in the backfield next year, is something good to have because they can have a guy like Jamal Williams come off the sideline and actually give you production.
Mm-hmm. A lot of you guys already looking ahead to the draft, which as from a fan standpoint, I could understand.
I'm not looking ahead to the draft yet. They got to hire a coach first. I can't. I mean, to know which way they're going to go in the draft, part of that equation is who's going to be coaching this team. So, I mean, that's the. You can talk about the draft all you want. I think that right now, I saw our Tom Silverstein say that the 11th overall is where they'd be right now. I mean, they're fixing to get a decent pick in the top half, but let's not put the cart ahead of the horse. There's a coach to hire.
Even before the coach, we've still got 2 more games left to cover.
Well, yeah, those don't matter.
Yes. Also that. So don't jump the gun too much. But I did see someone ask about whether or not the Packers should be considering who the quarterback of the future might be in the upcoming draft.
That's an interesting question because they do have that second first-round pick, and you've seen some teams take a quarterback when they don't need one with a second. I mean, I would guess no. I would guess that they have the assets that they want to maneuver up in the first round and go get a Josh Allen if they wanted to go do that. And goodness mercy, could this defense use someone like Josh Allen that actually has loads of athletic potential? They just don't have that guy on this defense. But yeah, I don't know. It's so far ahead. There's so many moving parts. I mean, I'm sure that everyone watching has seen the mock drafts. Boy, those are going to change 50 times in the next 3 months. So it's a long way away.
Yes, Ryan wants to say that Ryan should be considered to be the next Packers head coach. So,
me?
Yes.
No. That's no. You don't know me very well.
So no, that's a no from Ryan. So
no, I can confirm that. No, according to the source close to the situation, I will not be the next Packers head coach.
I'll be the source.
There you go.
So we can squash those rumors now before they get out of hand. Angie wanted to know earlier, will Mason Crosby be back next season?
I think so. I do. One thing to keep in mind is that they have tinkered with this field goal battery the past couple years. And by that I mean there's 3 parts of the field goal battery. The kicker is the most obvious, but also the long snapper and the holder. And he's dealing with rookies at both spots. He's dealt with a lot of moving parts at both spots the past couple of years. He's a proven guy in the playoffs. You go back to Dallas a couple of years ago. This season, it's not been good. He's missed some big kicks, but it's not been near as bad as 2012, and they stuck with him then. So, I think Mason Crosby will be the kicker next year.
Mm-hmm. Andy also wanted to agree with Ryan that you should not be the head coach. So.
Andy, we agree on something. That's awesome. Yeah, no, we're in total agreement there.
A lot of people saying that the Packers really need a good pass rusher, and it's something that they don't have currently in their arsenal, and that's something that they believe the Packers should be looking for in the draft. Do you see that as a priority before the quarterback of the future?
Heck yes, absolutely. And those are important too, because if you haven't heard, I just said it, it's Khalil Mack's division. I mean, you get a guy like that, you can win games. You win games with quarterbacks in this league, but you can win games with pass rushers too. And that's what the Bears have done this year. So yeah, no, Kyler Fackrell's got 8 sacks. That's nice. He's a good depth piece. He's not a leading pass rusher. They need one of those. Clay Matthews isn't. Nick Perry can't stay healthy. They absolutely need a lead pass rusher. It's got to be prioritized. And I've said this before. I mean, that's where we'll see if they do it, because it seems like every year I'm saying the same thing, and we're all saying the same thing. They have to prioritize that position. It's the second most important position in the entire game of football. And the last time that they took an edge rusher in the first round was 2013. This organization does not prioritize that position, and it has to this year. There's no other choice.
So Khalil Mack officially has more sacks this season than the Raiders do on the entire team. Yes.
He's got more sacks than games by a half. He's got 12.5 now after 2.5 today. He's played 12 games, so he's real good. He's real good, and I just go back to that date, September 2nd. That's the biggest coup, the biggest win anyone's had in this division this year. It swung the power of this NFC North, and now it's up to the Packers to get it back. But it's not going to be easy. The Packers are rightfully promoting this head coaching vacancy as a chance to go win a Super Bowl. And we have Aaron Rodgers. You have that, but the Bears are a team that the Packers are going to have to contend with for years to come. Khalil Mack's under contract the next 5 years. What's most impressive about the Bears, they still don't have a quarterback. Mitch Trubisky cannot throw the ball consistently, and they're still winning games and winning divisions. If he ever figures it out, watch out, because there's a whole lot that he could grow. Right now he's a better running back than thrower. If he ever figures it out and joins this defense, the other point I'll make is this. As good of as general manager Ryan Pace was this offseason, Packers fans should be thanking the football gods that this franchise did not draft Patrick Mahomes. Because if this franchise had Patrick Mahomes with this defense, you're looking at a juggernaut in the making. They don't have that with the quarterback position, but they sure have the defense.
Mm-hmm. Interesting point. I saw someone ask earlier about Randall Cobb and whether or not he'll be back next season. It's something that we've already discussed in past lives, and it was a tough day for Randall today, but it wasn't all on Randall. I think Aaron Rodgers had to bear some of the blame for their connection today.
I keep saying no, but there's something that Randall Cobb does give this offense, if you watch, that they don't get from anyone else. And those quick game pass, the quick hitting passes, the 8-yard slants, those things have not been part of the offense consistently this year. And the biggest reason is because they have not had Randall Cobb. He does it better than anyone, any of the receivers, including Devontae Adams. So I still don't think he's going to be back, and I haven't thought for a long time that he's going to be back because of how many young receivers they have. Not just the rookies, but Geronimo Allison's going to be back, and if he stays healthy, he was poised to have a big year this year. He's got good chemistry with Rodgers. Devontae Adams is number one. They don't need a guy like Randall Cobb in terms of the monetary value maybe he'll get on the open market, and by that I don't mean he's going to break the bank, but they just don't need to open the billfold really at all for Randall Cobb. With that said, he does provide the offense with something that seems to be lacking when he's out.
Mm-hmm. Rico really wants to see Clay Matthews gone, which
I think Randall Cobb's more likely to be gone than Clay Matthews, and I think that Clay Matthews can provide more value to the Packers than Randall Cobb can. The reason you got to disassociate your thoughts of Clay Matthews being a full-time pass rusher. He's not that anymore. but he is a guy he's very versatile. He's played a season and a half off the ball. He's a guy that can be a little rangy, a little, roam the defense a little bit, make plays, mostly at inside linebacker. If you get him on the right deal, I think that he's still a guy that you can use in the right way to affect games. He's just not your double-digit sack guy anymore, and he shouldn't be counting $10 million plus against the cap.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a few people ask this question. People want to know, will other members of the front office be gotten rid of, fired at the end of the season?
I don't think so. I think they'll add more than subtract. I think that's, if anything, that would be the move. I wanted to address Justin said that Clay Matthews' contract needs to be restructured. He's actually a free agent, so there's no restructuring that needs to be done. His contract expires in March, so it's a question of whether they re-sign him or not. I wouldn't rule it out. I think that they could re-sign him. It's just got to be the right deal, and it's got to be with the idea that the role is not to rush the passer on 80% of snaps. That's just not what he can do anymore.
Mm-hmm. Todd does not like Ron Zook and is not satisfied with Ron Zook's special teams. Special teams have been a huge issue for the Packers all season, including today, whatever time this game started.
It's dark outside, so that counts.
It's now nighttime. Yeah. Do you see him sticking around do you see any of the coaches sticking around when the new head coach is hired? The
big question will be, can they keep Mike Pettin as defensive coordinator to finish the job that he started? Because the Packers defense wasn't good today, and it hasn't been good this year, but it also hasn't been the problem. And it's been a lot better than it was the past couple of years. I mean, a lot better. So that's the big question. Now, Ron Zook, no, I think they'll go in a different direction as special teams coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Great. Lots of people also asking about Jimmy Graham and his future in Green Bay. He spoke with the media this week about wanting to have another chance, not being satisfied with his production so far this season. Will the Packers offer him that second chance?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I'm just going to say, I'll be honest, I don't know. Because
who knows?
Because I can make arguments for and against. All right, so the argument against is this. They made him the top paid tight end in the league this spring, $10 million a year. He has got a $5 million roster bonus in March. He'll count $12.6 million against the cap. And he doesn't have bad numbers, but he's not been a game. You make someone the top player at a position, you're looking for game-changing impact. None of that has happened with Jimmy Graham this year. So that's the argument against. The argument for is that his numbers are actually pretty good. He has produced. He's had the most productive season of any Packers tight end since 2012 under Michael Finley. And you give him another year. You let him get more comfortable in this offense. A new head coach. Figure out how to use him better in the red zone. With this Packers offense has not figured out all year how to use Jimmy Graham in the red zone, which is, he can't run anymore, but he's 6'7", and he's not going to shrink. I mean, he'll get slower, but he's not going to shrink. Regardless, you need to draft a young tight end to be kind of the future flag bearer for the position. Why not have him learn for a year under Jimmy Graham? So that's the argument for. Mm-hmm. What the Packers do, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. It's probably going to be dependent on what the market shakes out. And that big question is whether they want to save the $5 million in roster bonus and not give that to him in March. And that's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that right now.
Yeah, a lot of people also asking about Nick Perry. Questions surrounding him.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be back.
Brian Balaga also, people asking about him and whether or not he'll be back next season.
I could see. So a year ago, I remember this. The night of the first round of the draft, we were having, and I forget who this was with, but I remember this conversation, having dinner at Lambeau Field, and the conversation was, could they at 14, which is where they picked last year, could they take right tackle? So a year ago, last spring, it was a possibility, and of course, the Packers had a ton to get done. They didn't. Ryan Gutekunst didn't get done everything he needed to get done in one off season, and that right tackle position basically got pushed to the back burner. So on one hand, yes, I mean they can. He's going to be 30 next season. Hasn't been able to stay healthy. It would make sense to go younger at that position with someone whose body doesn't have near the wear and tear. On the other hand, I'm looking at this offseason and counting how many things the Packers have to do, how many things Brian Gutekunst has to get done. Safety, edge rush, tight end, guard, which is probably prioritized even over right tackle, even though it's not as important a position. Who plays right guard? That's a big question. There's so many things that it wouldn't surprise me if, again, with 1 year left on the contract, Brian Balaga's final year of his contract, if he got pushed to the back burner. That's my big question, because there's no doubt that they could go younger there. It's just that there's so many other things to do.
We're going to take a few more questions from you guys before we wrap it up. Just kind of a thought. What is there to gain from the next 2 games? What can the Packers get out of these upcoming games that seemingly mean nothing?
The word that comes to mind is developmental. See what the young guys that you've carried. See what Alex Light can give you. You've carried him on this roster, on this 53, all season. What can he give you? They haven't been able to answer that question because he hasn't been good enough to crack the 53 on a playoff contending team. Now they're out of contention. They're not that. See what Jake Kumara, what Robert Tonyan. If not next week, then certainly for the finale in Detroit. I would expect a lengthy, the 7 inactives to be a lot of veteran guys. Why play Aaron Rodgers every snap and not see what Deshaun Kaiser can give you as a backup quarterback? Now, maybe you have it in your mind that the new coach is going to want a different backup quarterback anyway. That certainly is possible. I think there's going to be a ton of personnel turnover. But it would still, I think you're at a point in the season now where you're trying to get all the answers you can to the questions of what your fringe roster guys can give you. Use the next 2 games to get as much info as you can.
Sure, yeah. Russ says that he wants to see the team tank it out and move up in the draft potentially, if that's even possible. I think we could both agree pretty confidently that the Packers will not intentionally tank the next 2 games.
Well, they don't need to either because they have that second first-round pick. And first of all, the difference if you're picking 12th or 13th and you're picking 9th or 10th is just not very big at all. It's minuscule. This is not the NBA. That's a huge difference in the NBA. Slot position in the draft is everything. Not so in the NFL. But secondly, if they really want a guy, they can package a pick. They can move up to pretty much anywhere they want. They can get in the top 5 if they wanted. They're going to have a lot of flexibility with their positioning in the first round. So, I get what you're saying. There's literally nothing to be gained from winning these games. They're out of playoff contention, but I just don't see them. I don't see them approaching it that way. I don't think they're going to.
Last question from Mike. He wants to know, should the Packers prioritize finding depth or a future franchise player?
Well, depth is important. I was just thinking about this today. How many guys on this Packers defense that were going against the Bears week 1 are no longer on this Packers defense? Kenny Clark was inactive today. He could still play the final 2 games. Mike Daniels, IR. Muhammad Wilkerson, IR. Nick Perry, IR. You go down the list, what you've got in September is very rarely what you have in December. Now, an exception to that is the Bears, who have hit the lottery this year with their lack of injuries, especially on defense. Khalil Mack missed 2 games, and that's basically it. It's amazing how much they've been able to stay healthy. That's extremely rare, and if you think that's just a Packers thing, go do yourself a favor, get more information, or look around the league at IR lists and rosters, and you'll find out very quickly it's not. But, yeah, depth is huge because in this game it's just so rare that what you have in September is what you have in December, and what they had on the field today is they were the bottom of the roster guys 15 weeks ago. So that's why you need a complete roster.
That and some of those guys just recently joined the team. So it's a new-look team, and it didn't work out super well for the Packers. But there's some silver linings in there. We wrote about Tyler Lancaster, who has seen increased playing time because of Mike Daniels. And now with Kenny Clark out temporarily, I think he recorded 6 solo tackles today.
The defensive line was not as bad as I expected it to be. You did see some of those short yardage, the short down situations. You did see Kenny Clark's absence being missed because they've been pretty dominant in short yardage much of the season. But they weren't gashed. I've seen this Packers defense a few years ago, and so have you. watching, you've seen this Packers defense get completely gashed. There was the Jordan Howard touchdown run where they got gashed. Other than that, there weren't a lot of times they got gashed up the middle or the defensive line kind of got blown off the ball. So that part of it was pretty decent. You know, they struggled more with containing Tarek Cohen, who most defenses in the league struggle containing him. His speed on the outside. Up the middle, they were pretty decent.
Not bad. So a somewhat optimistic note to leave off on. Hopefully that leaves
I'm the picture of optimism.
An okay taste in your mouth after we just talked a lot about free agency and the draft and just looking towards the future right away. Thank you guys so much for all of your questions. We really appreciate it. We are actually going to go head back to Green Bay very soon. So we will be back in Green Bay tomorrow for media availability, and we'll pass along whatever information we get tomorrow about injury updates, really anything that is going on. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Have a good night.